So I left Gettysburg like 3 hours ago, and this van has been tailgating me the whole way, man. He's been like on my ass since I left. Oh wait, I bought the van. That's what that is. Never mind. Good morning, everyone. It is early, 3:19 a.m. and I'm going on a little road trip today to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Actually, probably a pretty big road trip, about 7.5 hours each way. And I'm going to look at a van for the next, what would you call it? Plan B, or the next step of trying to make a business with pizza ovens. So I'll explain it more when the sun comes up. Okay, so still no ovens to build. I've got a cool project that I am consulting on, which I will be posting shortly. But in the meantime, I still want to kind of keep this dream alive. Pizza ovens, pizza, I mean, I think it's a lot more fun than renovations. So part of my business plan is to try and have some kind of supplemental income, or in the case as it is right now with no work, maybe it'd be the only income I get. But I've been watching a guy called Adam Atkins on Peddling Pizza. He's in the UK and he has a great channel. I highly recommend checking him out. But he bought a old vintage step van, had it imported from the United States, spent a lot of money on it and converted it into a pizza truck. I think that kind of ideally, you know, a vintage van has a lot of appeal, but just, you know, there's the unknown, like how much work is it going to need, are parts available, all that stuff. So I started looking online, and the one that kind of really caught my eye was this step van in Toronto, very close to me. It's a 79, and it was a GMC Value Van 15, which is like the P10 under the GM brand. Cool little van, but it was actually too small. I couldn't stand up in the back. It's only 7 feet behind the seat, and it just wasn't going to be practical. So, you know, you got to go see them to figure out if they're going to work for you. There's no way you can do it from photos. And I realized that it was very important to actually see any van, you know, and figure out what was out there, what the sizes, what the differences were. So the next one I looked at was a 1995, and it was a Ford. It was like fuel injected and so on, but like so many of these, they've been sitting for a long time. They might have been just used for storage. And, you know, this one, the engine was seized. So I mean, I didn't want to pursue that, but it was the perfect size. It was 10 feet behind the seat, and it felt really good. I could stand up in it, and, you know, give me another, I guess, piece of the puzzle for what I wanted. But as time passed, there's no new listings popping up. I tried Auto Trader, Kijiji, which is a sort of Canadian, it's like a Craigslist type thing, I guess, and then Marketplace. And there really wasn't much around here. And some of them would be even in Ottawa, or I think one of them was Geraldton or something. Like, that's about a 15-hour drive from me. Ontario is a huge province, so I was on Marketplace one day, and then I just changed my address to like Dayton, Ohio, and I searched 500 kilometers from Dayton, and boom, there was a lot more choices that came up. Still the same thing, a lot of non-runners, stuff that had been sitting. I didn't want a roll-up door, I wanted the ambulance doors. You know, I kind of figured out what I wanted. And then I was very seriously considering one about 4.5, 5 hours from me in Pennsylvania. Said it ran, but it didn't drive. And this guy didn't want to have a phone conversation. It was all done by text, and it was a little frustrating. But I thought, it's worth looking at. Let's go see it. Before I could go see it, though, another one popped up in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and it's quite a bit further away. Turned out to be 8 hours drive, but this thing was running. It looked good. The guy, sent his phone number, had a conversation with him, got a good vibe. The truck had been, safety inspected like annually up until 2022. So there's a lot of positives with this, and I decided it was worth going to see. So it was 12-footer. It's actually like 11'9" behind the seat. And that was as big as I really want to go. But I made the drive done and ultimately, took the chance, and I bought the van for $5,000 US, which with the exchange is not good. It was like 6,900 Canadian. And then, there was duty and tax to be paid and so on. But so the process to import a US vehicle into Canada, there's like 2 steps you got to do. The first thing you got to do is export it from the US. You use a broker actually to set up initialize the transaction. You get an ITN, an internal transaction number, and then you have to provide the title and a bill of sale, and they submit that to the US Customs and Border Patrol. And once they receive that and confirm it, they'll send you an email, and you have to wait 3 days. The vehicle has to stay in the US on US soil, has to be in the US to even start the process. So there's a delay there. You can't just go buy a van, pick it up, and bring it home same day. The thought of driving back to Gettysburg again was just, that was not appealing at all. So I made the deal. I bought the van. The seller, he was a nice guy. He took me for lunch, and but I called U-Haul to see if I could rent. It's called a toy hauler. It's a pretty big trailer, 16 feet long, 8.5 feet wide, 7,000 plus pound capacity. So I called up, and it's like a call center, I guess. You tell them they want to know what you're towing it with, and then the vehicle that you're towing. My truck tows like 14,000 pounds, it's got a pretty good capacity. So I was fine. Made the booking. They said they'd look for a trailer and they'd call me. And I got a call back like 30, 45 minutes later, and they had a trailer right in Gettysburg, 5 minutes up the road. I passed the place actually on the way in, and I'm like, great, perfect. I'm gonna try and find a parking spot in Buffalo, and I'll drive it that far. With U-Haul, you can go like one-way trip. So I went over the U-Haul, did the paperwork, paid in the office, and he told me meet him outside, back me up. He pretty much had the trailer on the hitch, as I'm getting out of the truck. And I looked at the trailer, and I'm like, that's not the trailer I ordered. And he said, yeah, that's the trailer you ordered. And I'm like, I knew these big trailers are actually kind of rare and hard to find, because I initially tried to book it when I was looking at the other van. So I said, okay, I'm going to try it. I'm going to take it. It was like 12 feet, 1 or 2 inches from the front of the trailer to the back of the ramp, and 82 inches wide. So I hitched it up, went over to the lot where I was buying the truck, and just got the van on. It fit, like the center of the wheel was like 1 or 2 inches from the end. The wheel was hanging off the edge. But got it on.
had to remove the outside wheels though, because it was too wide at the back. It wasn't sitting on the ramps, it was sitting up on the edges. So I decided to take the wheels off the outside. Just I didn't want to take any chances. Anyway, crank this thing down with ratchet straps the best I could, and I took off, and at this point it's like 4:30 in the afternoon. I'm on my phone trying to find, you know, a parking spot, and my wife had actually looked online and found that there's something called the Truckers Parking Club, and it's for like big trucks, like tractor trailers, but there's spots that you can rent to park your vehicle all over the US. So I paid $100 US, and I booked a spot for a week. This was Wednesday. 3 days was going to take me into the weekend. I was crossing at Queenston Lewiston, and they only process vehicles Monday to Friday between 8 and 3:30. So I booked the spot for 1 week and got on the road. I think I drove a couple kilometers up the road, or even just a kilometer, jumped out, checked to see if everything was still tight, make sure the van hadn't moved on the trailer. It was a little bit, not like a little crooked the way I parked it, so I could see that in the mirror. I'm thinking, is it moving, you know? But anyway, then I drove to the highway, and before I got on, I got out, checked again, and it was like solid. It hadn't moved a centimeter, like it was like locked in. So got on the highway. It was a little hairy. I, you know, couldn't go like full speed. I mean, I could do 55, 60 miles an hour on like the highway. Some of the highways are 65 miles an hour, which is about 105 kilometers, I think. But around 100 wasn't too bad. Every now and then it would start to sway on me, and it would be like, you know, I'd take my foot off the gas, like, and just try and sort of get a hold of it again. But overall, it was actually, I don't know if my nerves kicked in and I was just got used to it or what, but I was trucking along, and it was obviously slower, but I got into Buffalo like around midnight. So it took longer for sure to get back, and parked the truck in the spot and headed home. And then I waited till the Monday. So Monday morning, like 6 a.m. I didn't get up 3 in the morning or anything, but I headed down, and you know, thankfully the trailer was still there, the van was still on it, and hitched her up and took her to the border. The U.S. Customs and Border Patrol, or like, they were great, very personable, and it was very straightforward as long as you got your paperwork. So bill of sale, title, you need the email you have to print off, and you need, there's a sheet they send you, I can't remember what it's called, but I'll look that up. But, and I think that was it. Somewhere along the line, he said you need a proof of insurance, so I did get insurance on the vehicle, but I don't think he asked me for that. Anyway, did that. There's no fee or anything. They stamped the title as exported, and now you're good to go to the next step. So after you do the export process, the import process to Canada, it's called RIV, or RIV, the Registry of Imported Vehicles. So there's a bunch of criteria for a vehicle. It has to be eligible, you know, it has to be built to standards, you know, of North America, essentially. And they're supposed to get an inspection within 45 days. And I think you pay a fee, $300 or something, to go through all this and get this done. However, because my van is like, it's almost 50 years old, it's exempt. So I have to fill out a Form E something something. They just call it Form E. There's 4 pages, and again, it's things like, you know, VIN number, description, bill of sale, title, all that stuff. Anyway, get to Canada, very friendly border people there. Actually going down to Gettysburg too, they were very friendly, but not always. Anyway, arrived at the booth, declared it, and she gave me this yellow ticket and then told me where to go. And then I had to go in to the, I guess the customs and duty or whatever. And lovely lady helped me there. So they determined from the VIN number that the van was made in Switzerland, which is definitely not true at all. No part of this van was built in Switzerland, but it has an old 11-digit VIN number. And I mean, she showed me the chart, and the first letter of the VIN number tells you where it was made. But I don't think it applies in 1977 because it's a GM 1-ton chassis and an Olson body made in New York. So anyway, she charged me 6.1%, I think that's what she said, in duty, and then I had to pay GST, which is 7%, no 5%, 5%. It's about $800 Canadian total, and then I will have to pay the provincial sales tax of 8% when I get it registered in Ontario. So things went very smoothly and got all my paperwork stamped, and I'm ready to go to Service Ontario and get it registered in Canada. So one of the reasons I chose this van, I don't know, like southern Pennsylvania is probably not the best place to buy a van as far as they still get snow and so on, but the more north you get, the salt on the roads, the frames rotting out is always a big issue. I inspected it and I thought it was in pretty good condition. And then obviously the body is aluminum, so there's no rust there at all. It's it's in good condition. So that was another reason. So I like the aluminum body on the van. It's got a 350 small block. It's a V8 GM motor, Chevy motor. It's a very common motor. There's parts available very readily. So that was, to me, a good, reason to go with a van like this, that you can still get parts so easily. And that includes the chassis. It's a GMC 1-ton chassis. It's a P30 or P3500. Yeah, so next thing to do, we're going to get it inspected, see what kind of condition it's in, and yeah, we'll see. But hopefully this will be my food truck, my pizza truck, and I can get this thing converted on the road and try something different. So okay, so if you watched the first video, you know that I am completely broke and I'm trying to do this from nothing. So the only way I could fund the van purchase was to make some sacrifices, and I decided to sell off some personal items. Sold a motorcycle, my vintage Vespa, kayak, some tools. Realized, it's just stuff. I could replace it later if I need to, but I really want to make this work, and I'm really committed to this, and I would rather have a go and fail than not try at all. So my only regret was my 1966 Lincoln SA200 red face, which is it was in great condition, all original, and I know I'll never find one like that again. So I do hope whoever bought that takes good care of it and appreciates it. But the van is the plan. Thanks for watching, guys. Please subscribe, follow along. Appreciate the support. Thanks. Bye.